May 7th meeting of the Oklahoma City Water Utilities Trust will be in order. The first item on the agenda is the minutes from the April 16th meeting.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the April 16th meeting. Is there comments, questions? Hearing none, voting please. Minutes are approved. At this point, before we go to the consent docket, there are a number of people here that are signed up to speak on item 5B, and it is the recommendation of staff that this be stricken. The applicant has, in effect, withdrawn his application. And so...
So the applicant had, last time we voted and asked that if the facility were to proceed, it would be only done with steel shot.
Right.
And he has now responded and says that that's a requirement that is unacceptable to him.
Right.
And has withdrawn the application.
That's correct.
That's right.
Will he be moving his facility?
Yes, sir. We've sent him a notice and asked him to move forward with relocating.
But not at Lake.
Off the site.
Here.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay,
Off
thank you.
our property.
Thank you.
So, Councilman, would it be appropriate to make a motion to strike the item from the agenda? If so, I would do so.
Such a motion.
Second.
Motion and a second to strike item 5B. Does anyone have any questions about it?
So to be clear, he has now withdrawn his application.
So,
Yeah, one of the ladies is going like this, and that, yeah, I know that would be your...
Thank you very much. I appreciate you.
That means there's no pending lease considered at all.
That's correct.
Trustees, I think some of the people would like to speak anyway at that time.
I watched them on TV last night speak about things that we'd already decided not to do, like lead. Unless they've got something to add to the process, I don't think I want to listen to anything else. Now, if the other other trustees would like to listen to it, that's fine. But after watching that thing on television last night where time was spent on the lead thing, which we decided 2 weeks ago we weren't going to do, I don't know what else we can add today. If somebody wants to add something, I guess trustees can agree to hear it. But at this point, it's over. There's nothing before us to talk about.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Do we have a motion and a second to strike item 5B? Voting, please. Item is stricken. Next item on the agenda is the consent docket.
Move the consent docket subject to individual consideration.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the consent docket subject to individual consideration. Are there items to be considered separately?
Mr. Chairman, I've got a couple of minor questions on item C. It has to do with an agreement with Tinker.
Yes, sir.
Are we going to take ownership of the facilities out there?
Potentially. We have a lot of work to do.
But our RFP requires us to take over the ownership of their sewer and water system.
That's a proposal by Tinker. They have done a similar proposal and infatuated it in Georgia. They're looking to do it here.
As part of our proposal process, are we going to do an inspection of facilities out there to know what we're buying?
Yes, sir. It's critically important. And again, we have looked at other utilities that have worked through the same process with the United States on other bases and various military facilities. That's the advice they give us, is have someone come in and help evaluate the facilities, to look at creating a long-range capital program that so we've identified needs, determined a long-range investment program that you make a part of the contract. It's very complex, and yet it's very exciting to have been asked.
Since we're the owners of the system out there, is that going to, the agreement exist in perpetuity, or will it be some point in time when we'll have somebody bidding against us out there?
The proposal is for 50 years.
Brett Wenger, trustee, this is a request they're making that we consider taking over the system through a federal procurement procedure. It's a sole source procedure. And so this item here will authorize the general manager designee to do an engineering solicitation to find the firm to do what Marcia has stated, do the evaluation work. Once they come back with the cost, then we'll have to do an amendment with the firm we're hiring to do the cost of service study to cost out what the fees should be from Aquit to fund those costs. The federal government requires that the fees and charges we charge today for water and wastewater service not be affected by this other activity they've asked us to perform. So therefore, we have to bifurcate, separate the costs into separate categories and have fixed monthly charges for things that relate to maintaining the infrastructure, including the purchase. They have a right, once we provide the proposal, to not accept it, or at any time during the 50-year term to buy us out for the remaining financial value that's not been compensated yet. And we don't know exactly what that would be, if anything. Normally, Oklahoma City accepts assets as is and maintains them, includes the cost thereafter, and doesn't compensate a developer for those improvements. And we've discussed that with the federal government. So this is sort of a negotiation once we turn in our proposal, but there are many things we have to do to formulate one, bring back the findings to you, then we have to consider that and then turn that into a response to a proposal that they will issue after we proceed further along.
Okay. So they can take it back from us.
Correct.
They'll have that right there. It's compensated.
Yes.
But they can take it back.
And if they want changes to the facility, as if they get a new mission or new facilities or changes to facilities, those changes that would require additional capital infrastructure by us will be negotiated at the time so that we are fully compensated for those improvements they're asking us to make as a part of a change order process.
I think that's potentially a lot of problem, but that's, if you guys find, that's fine.
Very, very complex.
Yeah, and, well, I think the idea when they build something extra or want something extra and we give them a price for it, they don't like it, what happens then? Do they build themselves and tie into our system? I think that it's going to be an interesting relationship. I'm glad I'm not going to be here 30 years or whatever. Item D is a less complex project, but I think equally important. That's an inspection system of our sewer system. And inspection and cleaning, I guess I'll do that at the same time. Will that effort, first of all, will it be construed as notice that we have a problem? And if we have a problem in the next year or so, or as a result of this inspection before they get it cleaned, will that be a constructive notice to the city?
Under Oklahoma law, we do not have liability until we have notice of a defect and a reasonable opportunity to cure. So when we do television and internal inspections of sewer lines, when we find defects, we will have a reasonable time to make those cures. Then our liability on a subsequent event will depend upon the causation of that event. For example, very often we will find that plumbers punch holes in the top of our sewer lines without permission or permits, without inspection, and those cause additional leakage, but may not be the cause of a backup. Sometimes backups are caused by other events, such as extraordinary rainfall events. So there'll still need to be an analysis of causation.
How much will that cost, do you think, to do the whole system?
Typically, depending upon whether we're both cleaning and TVing, we're looking at somewhere between $3 and $10 a foot. So piecemeal. $3 if you're simply cleaning, $3 or less if you're simply cleaning, up to $10 if you're TVing a fairly large size pipe, to give you an idea. So average, if we were doing the whole system all at once, which is why people don't do that, is it's a huge amount. We select, at $5 a foot, it would be 5 times $14 million, $70 million. So we wouldn't go that direction. We'd rather, again, choose pieces that we believe, based on age and other circumstances, may be the most likely problem. TV those, get through them, clean them up, develop an action plan to correct that pipe, and add that into our capital program, main replacement repair work.
$10 a foot is expensive.
That's why you don't do the whole system at once, for sure.
And the next project is has to do with the Overholser Water Treatment Plant, and utilizing it as a pump station to transfer water between Draper and Hefner, or vice versa. Could the facility out there transfer 100% of the water needed in the other basin if we had a failure in, say, the treatment plant, either Hefner or Draper?
Yes, it's not the whole solution. There are other pipes involved, but yet that's the
We have the
intent, to push
capability
the
within
water
our
farther
system,
north.
the whole thing. Okay. Secondly, are we going to repaint the water tanks out at Overholser?
We will.
They're beautifully rust-colored right now. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I take the answer to Mr. Ryan's question about whether or not that does constitute notices. Is yes, it does constitute notice.
It constitutes notice, but it is not the sole factor in liability.
I think the clause that got my attention was we have some reasonable time to correct that default.
Right.
That's correct, and an analysis of causation.
Any other questions on the consent docket? Hearing none, voting please. Consent docket's approved. Next item, item 4, concurrence docket, 3 items.
Move the items.
Second.
Motion and a second on all 3 items on the concurrence docket. Are there questions about individual matters on that docket? Hearing none, voting please. Concurrence docket's approved. Next item, item for individual consideration. That's the amendment to the water treatment facility of Chisholm, North Canadian, Deer Creek, so forth.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion is second to approve item 5A. Are there questions or comments? Hearing none, voting
Just a
please.
question, Mr. Chairman, before you vote on it. How often do we redo the pricing out there? Is it annually?
Annually, and in this case, the contract was held for some period of time while we worked through the reuse contract between us and Veolia involving a single customer.
Because this price expires already.
It's ready. We're ready for a next amendment. That's correct.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Marshall, remind me where we are in the process. This is a 7-year contract, 5 and 2.
2016.
I think this is a 6, right?
2016 is the last year of the contract. And how long was this one? It was a 6 and then it was renewed another 6?
I think that in 2016, it's potential to rebid the contract.
Okay.
Any further questions on 5A? Hearing none, voting please. 5A is approved. 5B has been stricken. Item 5C is the fiscal year 2013 Water Utilities Trust budget.
Mr. Chairman, it's very embarrassing that we typed the wrong number on your agenda, so we can't consider this today. We will bring it back to you next Tuesday. Yes, once again, Francis found it. We all read it 4 times and didn't.
Move to strike.
Second.
A motion and a second to strike item 5C. Voting please. 5C is stricken. The next matter is the executive session. And I think we do need a brief executive session today.
Motion to move it to the executive session.
Motion and second to move item D to executive session. Item 6, items from trustees. Comments? Item 7, general manager's reports. Presentation by the call center reporting, technical design, and implementation.
Mr. Chairman, with us today we have Lee Booth and Lee Cooper, who are working on this on behalf of utilities customers, and particularly the Utilities Customer Services Division, led by Pete Losberg, and assisted by Judy Schellenberger. Thank you. I'm very nervous. So Lee Booth is going to introduce. Lee Cooper is our consultant. He's been working on this with all of the administrative staff for some time now. Go ahead, Lee.
Great, thank you.
First of all, Pete's been running utility customer service for a long time, and we need to have her stand up and at least be acknowledged.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Again, I'm Lee Booth in Utilities Administration, and this is Lee Cooper with Vertex Holdings Incorporated. We're going to talk to you about the project that we've been working on. So, as by way of background, on December 7, 2010, trustees approved a diagnostic assessment of the Utility Customer Service Call Center to identify opportunities to improve systems and procedures with the ultimate goal of improving customer satisfaction. As a result of that work, Vertex provided a number of recommendations which would realize benefits for both the utility and for our customers. Many of these recommendations were used as the core to develop this customer service improvement project. We came back to you on April 19th, 2011, and obtained authorization to design systems that would address Vertex recommendations for technology, processes, and reporting. Then, on May 29th, 2012, you authorized the purchases necessary to implement these solutions that we'd presented. Finally, today, we're here to provide you with a report on the completion of this work. The 5 main components of the project were designed to improve customer experience while they interact with our call center. The main component of this is Cisco. Cisco is our telephone and IVR, and before we began this project, one of the most important things that we did was to bring the Utility Customer Service Call Center up to the current voice over IP platform that was already in place throughout the city. This will ultimately make it easier for city IT resources to support all of the work that we've done. So the highlights of the telephone and IVR improvements include a simpler design to the way that the calls are distributed to the agents, increased self-service options to customers through the IVR. The next component, workforce management, uses our historical call volumes to forecast the number of calls that we'll receive so that we can more efficiently schedule employees to respond to our customer demands. It also allows us to look to the future and to better plan the personnel and resources necessary to meet our customers' expectations for service. Quality management, the next tool, has the ability to record and observe not only the audio file, but also the computer navigation that the agent uses to address the customer's call, providing us a complete picture of our customer interactions. Customized reporting provides insight into the operation by combining data from all of these technologies so that managers can easily assess a complete snapshot of the operation. And it promotes a customer-based focus for our continuous improvement. Digital signage is the final component, and it is the display of real-time customer demands and our responses to them. It's an important means of communication throughout the call center. So getting a little bit more detail about the telephones in the IVR, previously our agents were in specialized groups. Our new design allows every agent to respond to every call. This evened out the workload, decreased our wait times, and improved our response to our telephone demands. The IVR, that's the component in front of the telephone that says you've reached utility customer service, increases the customer's ability to use 24/7 self-service options. This has increased our customer satisfaction and decreased the call volume to the call center. Customers now have access to many impressive services through the IVR. These include if your telephone number is listed on your account number, when you call us, we'll ask you, are you calling about this account number? That's called ANI confirmation. balance inquiry, all of your different payment services, payment arrangement, your account status, the ability to select a duplicate bill, the ability to stop service. We store your bank account information now for check payments. You can report missed trash, missed recycling, missed bulky pickup. You can tell us that your cart or bin needs to be replaced or repaired. That's a highlight of just some of the services that we have. Customers are responding very favorably to these improvements by using them and by providing us positive feedback. For example, many people over time have told us that the amount of time that we gave you to enter your account number was not long enough, and the system would error you out. What we've done is we've expanded that window to give people more time to enter those longer credit card numbers and your utility account number, and many people have responded that that is an improved benefit that they're seeing. Importantly, this project serves as a phase 1 for self-service initiatives because it lays a firm foundation to easily implement additional self-service options should you choose to do so. Workforce management, this is Lee's backbone and his specialty, but what it does is it accurately predicts our call volumes and allowing us to have the right people in the right place at the right time to respond to our customers. This graphic, I think, is pretty interesting. It's really the first month of our operation, and you can see that the call volume is fairly consistent across those 2 months. What's interesting is that we are responding to our customers 3 times faster with Workforce. Another key metric that you can observe on this slide is the decreased amount of abandoned calls. We've cut that in half. So I think that's pretty impressive. Through the use of schedules, we're seeing fantastic results in our ability to get caught up with other work activities. And most importantly, the employees in this work section have responded by doing an outstanding job adapting to this technology and adhering to the new schedules that we're providing them. Quality management. Supervisors previously would manually observe calls and evaluate an employee's performance on a paper form. This resulted in a delay of getting feedback to the agents, and it was difficult for us to measure what impact that feedback was having on our overall customer experience. With this new quality management application, we can see a complete picture of the customer experience. We randomly record calls on each agent, and they receive feedback as soon as the supervisor has completed their performance evaluation. The benefits here are numerous, including our ability to improve work processes by identifying things in our work group that are happening that are really good and using those as best practices across the board. We also hope that this will ultimately result in fewer escalated calls and consistent messaging. We want our CSRs to tell each customer the same thing so that everybody gets the same message about our service. Reporting. The reason we did this customized reporting is detailed in that window. And basically, we want to be able to answer the questions, are we efficiently using our resources? Do customers call us several times to get their questions answered or their problems solved? Are we providing quality customer experience on the telephone overall? And what are our current demands for service, both in the front office, that's what we call the telephone section, and the back office, which is all the backup activities that are necessary to support customer billing? Do we manage effectively? And for continuous improvement, what can we do better? With improved reporting, each agent can now see their daily performance. Did they follow their schedule? How many calls did they take? What is their rating on how they're serving the customers? Each supervisor can see the same information across the board on their reps for their entire team, and executives can see that information across teams, as well as key measures for leading for results and other performance indicators. This allows us to respond more quickly to coach employees as we work towards our goal for ensuring satisfaction in every call. And the final component, digital signage, really, it's all up there sort of in the snapshot of what we're displaying now in the call center. Real-time data information for the telephone, key messages, department messages, call center announcements, the ability to have dynamic messages about service interruptions and main breaks. And we're finalizing additional screens here that will bring in the back office workload so that we can see across the board throughout the division what work is to be done and how are we performing that work. So those are the components of the system. Lee's going to talk a little bit about Vertex's approach and about the positive outcomes that we're seeing.
Before he starts, may I ask a question?
Certainly.
Do you have any Hispanic speakers in your call center? Spanish speakers?
We currently don't have a bilingual line at this point, no, sir.
Because 30% of our population in Oklahoma City is Hispanic, so we may need to
sir.
think about that in the future.
A lot of the foundation that we've laid would certainly pave the way for something like that. For instance, the workforce management that Lee spoke about earlier would certainly allow you to define what sort of demand there was, not only based on the demographic, but also for calls coming into the contact center that requested a Spanish line. And you could then skill the agents appropriately so that they were able to react and respond to those calls.
Thank you.
Sure. Thanks. So that's actually a good segue into what I was hoping to speak with you about today. So essentially, our approach, ours being Vertex's approach to improving the customer experience is one that integrates market-leading technology along with best practice process and data management. For this particular engagement to facilitate that approach, we really thought about the project in 3 distinct phases. Leah spoke a lot about the technology and the particular applications that we deployed as part of this project, and the technology is really, in our view, foundational to everything else that we do. So you have to have the tools in place in order to really make the progress that you want to make to improve the customer experience. What really comes after the technology, or in this case, it really went hand in hand and simultaneous with the implementation of the technology, is the development and deployment of tailor-made best practice in regards to processes. So while we were developing and deploying the technology, we were also developing and deploying process to accompany that technology, and that was really the special sauce, if you will, that allowed us to hit the ground running from day one once the technology was implemented, and ultimately will lead to a shorter learning curve associated with the tools, as well as quicker benefit realization, and really make the difference. In addition to technology and process, we also firmly believe that reporting is a key element of any type of improvement initiative like this. And in this case, the reports that we've developed, the custom report suite, really provides management with actionable insight that they can utilize to not only better manage their real-time environment, but also to really create a culture of continuous improvement to hopefully continue to improve the experience that the customer receives. We've only had our essential elements of the project in place for a short period of time, but we've already been able to see quite a few benefits associated with what we've done thus far. As Lee mentioned earlier, we've been able to, at this point, accurately measure and report data that shows that overall, customers are experiencing shorter wait times, that we have fewer people that are hanging up before they actually speak to a customer service representative and get their question answered. Additionally, we're seeing that more and more folks are using the self-service options that we have available to them on the IVR. By the way, that matches up pretty closely now with what's available on the web, so that folks are getting a coordinated and integrated channel experience, whether they talk to one of our customer service representatives, use the website, or use the IVR. And internally, we've been able, as Lee said, to distribute calls more evenly across employees, which ultimately helps morale. It also makes us a more efficient operating environment. And we've also had the reporting put into place, and that's really, the reporting and the ability to stay caught up on work is sort of the gift that keeps on giving, because it not only improves today, but it also helps to ensure that tomorrow's workload is as manageable or more manageable as today's was, and it also lays the foundation for managers to be able to continuously evolve and to improve the experience that each and every customer receives on a day-to-day basis. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. We thank you for your time. We welcome any questions that you may have at this point in time.
Questions?
Just, what's KPI?
Key performance indicator.
Okay,
so we mapped metrics to line up with the mission and vision statements for the organization.
And Marcia, do you have your supervisors monitor these calls occasionally?
Yes, the supervisors work for Judy Schellenberger, and they are...
Do you monitor them yourself?
I do not, personally.
Brett, do you monitor them?
Not yet.
Okay, thank you.
We can now.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Are the citizens to be heard? I guess they left. We are going to recess to executive session, and we'll return.